It has been such an exciting and busy time on my end. I'm sure you can relate. Um, in August, my husband and I spent 10 days in Europe, sort of towards the end of the month, which was magical. It was so amazing. And then when we returned home, as expected, we were thrown right back into the mix with back to school and back to work. And honestly, I feel like I've barely had time to post my vacay pics. Never mind find that better balance that you're often hearing me preach about, but more on that in coming weeks. However, over the last little while, there has been one incredible highlight that I really want to share about in this podcast episode. And that is spending a day with two incredible and inspirational women, Cat and Nat. So if you're not familiar, well, they have 7 kids between the two of them. And Cat and Nat really got their platform by keeping it real and just saying how it is. They know that motherhood can be lonely and isolating. And so their mission is really to bring women and moms together. They started with hosting dinner parties and events just in their home. They had wine, no babies allowed. And then because they had such huge success in the Toronto area where they live, they sort of took things to the next level and they started, creating an online platform that has really just exploded. They have, been rewriting what that paradigm is of the perfect mom, which I can so relate to, as I'm sure so many of you can as well. They are honest, but they are hilarious. And as they dismantle that unrealistic portrayal of motherhood, they create these hilarious videos, many of which have gone viral. They're called Mom Truths videos, and they have garnered hundreds of millions of views. They have, I think, over 3 million followers across platforms. They have 2 best-selling books. They have an iHeartRadio award-nominated podcast. They have a newly branded podcast called Unfiltered, which a lot of the times you need to have those headphones on because you don't want anyone to hear what they are saying. Although it's going to make you laugh, it's going to make you cry, it's going to resonate with you deeply. They have also taken this information on the road and they have performed over 100 live shows across North America in a mainly sold out tour. So I had the incredible experience and opportunity to spend a day with these two incredible women. And here's a bit of a preamble because you're probably like, what the heck? How did this happen? How do I jump on board? How do I hop on that train? So in my professional life as an educator and as a lifestyle expert, I'm engaged in a number of pursuits. So of course I have this podcast, The Juggle is Real, and this platform that I share from. So I share tips and insights and helpful products, sometimes on television shows like Breakfast Television or CTV Your Morning. I also teach courses at the college in my city. And as a writer, a blogger, and a content creator, I have a business with a partner that promotes the area where we live. And so it's through this last pursuit that I recently co-hosted an event where Cat Nat joined as the keynote speakers. So during the day leading up to the event, I had the chance to go for drinks, do a little bit of touring, and have some conversation with these ladies. And let me just say, it was such a joy and such an honor. And I wanted to share what I learned, some of the takeaways, because it's not often that we get to spend time with the people that we look up to, that we get to spend time with people who have such a large platform. And I wanted to share that with you, share the experience. And really, I had a blast with them and I laughed so much. But here are 3 of the things that stuck out most.
Welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm your host, Andryanna. I'm a career-driven mom of 3 boys who went from burnout to finding balance, and I am on a mission to help other parents enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. What do you think? Are you with me? Let's get started.
So yes, I guess you can say I was a bit of a third wheel hanging out with the BFFs, Cat Nat, last Friday. And it was so much fun and I had such a blast and I learned a lot. And I thought I would, kind of think about it some more, put some pen to paper and just, be so grateful for that experience that I had, because it's not often that we get to meet the people that we look up to. So I wanted to share the 3 biggest takeaways that I learned from my day and hanging with Cat and Nat. So the first takeaway really is that we are all in the same boat. Like, it really hit home. I mean, I love to preach better balance for busy people. I know what it feels like to go from burnout to living a more intentional life. But geez, like, I am in the trenches now and again. I feel like I have been a bit overwhelmed lately, and I'm looking to manage my plate better. And so when you see someone like a well-known figure, like these people who you think, oh, they must have it all together, they've got all these followers, you see them, they're hilarious. I mean, they laugh at the notion of, being the perfect mom. They laugh at the notion of having it all together, and that sort of putting balance on a pedestal. I mean, these 2 women are on this North American tour. They're adding more dates. All of their shows are selling out. And in the midst of touring, in the midst of, driving around with me, they're getting calls. Kat got a call from her husband and the sink fell out of the counter from their master bathroom. Like, literally, the sink broke. Their bathroom had no sink in it. There was an issue. So her husband's calling her, because I don't know what she's going to do from being 5 hours away. But of course, he's calling her first, So even as best-selling authors and award-nominated podcasters and having all of these followers and this tour that they're on, they're still moms. They've got 7 kids between the 2 of them. They are just doing their best and they are juggling all of the things. Even during, the work, they're still thinking about their kids. They're hopping back and forth between, having that hat on as mom, having that hat on as entrepreneur, having to really, be that person and put on a show that night. But yeah, they're waking up early the next morning because they're carpooling. Their kids have baseball or soccer or whatever that extracurricular is. And so they are just like you and I. We are all in the same boat. And so the takeaway here is really like, so often we look to external circumstances. We're scrolling on Instagram, or we're looking to social media, or we're looking to our friends and people who we think have this perfect life, or people who we think can do it all in the best ways and have it all together. But no matter who you are, where you are, what your platform is, we are all in the same boat and we are going through the same things. We have our spouses calling us for silly reasons, or, we're fixing our schedules so that we can be at those things for our kids. Meanwhile, we're doing important work and helping people. We are all in the same boat. So that is takeaway number 1. The second takeaway that I really took and has really been instilled with me in spending a day with Cat Nat is that making it work means changing your picture of how it should look and how it should work, right? So making it work can look different for everyone. So Cat Nat, they are the first to admit that they don't have it all together. They are the first ones to get up and do a silly dance on TikTok and talk about being a hot mess most of the time. They're known for telling it how it is. But in being with them, it really just showed this on a whole other level, because they own up to their faults. They understand that perfection is a fallacy. Being perfect is that impossible standard. And the sooner that we can understand this, the sooner we can take this to heart and not try to achieve that perfect picture, then the sooner we can make it work for ourselves. So again, when we're looking outwards for validation, we're going to come up short. But when we decide what our family life looks like, what our careers look like, what our downtime is, what our pastimes are, not because we think other people are doing it or because we think we should be doing it, but when we make these decisions, we are creating that picture of what will work. So it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing as long as it works for us. So we can throw the guilt aside. We can let go of what we think it's supposed to look like. I mean, I feel like, and they can laugh about it. I mean, going on tour for, weeks at a time, living on a tour bus, going from show to show and city to city. I mean, that's not for everyone, not for every family. And perhaps if you would have spoke to Cat Nat 10 years ago when their children were a little bit younger, that wouldn't have worked. But they are able to make this work for them, for their careers right now with the family structures that they have, because they are changing that picture of what it should look like or how it's coming together for them. So that's my second takeaway from spending the day with Cat Nat, is really just making it work means that you just have to change that picture of what it looks like and how you're making it work, because it's not going to be the same for any two people. So I think that the more we can think of this and the ways that we can turn inwards instead of looking outwards, the easier it's going to be for making it work for our families. Okay, so then my third takeaway is that all moms need help, and there are so many ways to get support. It was so cool driving around with Cat Nat, learning more about them. They had so many questions for us too. I loved it. And actually my brother and sister-in-law were with us for most of the day because they were our photographers. And so they were getting shots as we toured around and did some things. And they had so many questions for us. And I loved that curiosity from them. But learning, that really, and in the keynote speech that they did to our intimate group who of the people who came to our event, is really just showed that no matter who you are, you need help. And by pretending that you can do it all on your own, or trying to do it all alone, it's not helping you. It's only going to hurt in the end. So all moms, no matter who you are, all moms need help, but there are so many different ways to get support. So, I mean, we often look to, as moms, think of maybe that support as having the childcare, right? So we think that that picture of being supported means having amazing childcare resources, or awesome grandparents who help out, or maybe that great carpool group who can take the pressure off of all the extracurricular activities. And that's certainly one really important aspect. But so many people, so many moms don't necessarily have grandparents or, people that they can turn to, people that they can trust, people that they feel supported by when it comes to the kids. But there are places out there. There are tools that we can utilize to get support. Other ways that I learned from Cat Nat that we can be supported is by recognizing that we can't do it all alone. Something that Cat Nat have recently been really public about speaking on, that I've really, really appreciated, is their recent ADHD diagnoses, and that they have been taking this journey and they are using medication to help them with their ADHD. And so when we recognize that maybe there are troubles, and it can be, physically, it can be mentally, it can be in a variety of different ways, knowing that we can look outwards to seek that support, I think is so, so important. So for Cat Nat, they explained it in the sense of like, they've kind of known this all along. They've had a hard time concentrating. They weren't able to focus. And it goes back to thinking of high school for them. So recognizing that they were having trouble, things were, progressively getting worse, as they mentioned, and through their research that I can't speak to, but learning that as people age, sometimes ADHD symptoms that go unrecognized become more prevalent. They were facing increasing issues. And so they were able to turn to medical practitioners to get that diagnosis. And in not being afraid to seek out support, gain that support, and then see improvements in their lives, it just really shows that no matter who we are, no matter what we're doing, when we can say that I need help, there will be tools and supports that will come to our aid. So another way that we can be supported, is really through connection and community. And this really is sort of that that, I guess, capstone to my day spent with Cat Nat is really looking to creating that connection and having that community. And of course, in their case, it's through their friendship with one another and the community that they've created. So it might be having a best friend, or you might have to go out and find that community. Connection spawns from common ground. And this is why mommy groups can be so great, but they aren't the only way to get that connection. So of course, when we think to ways that nurture you and make you feel like you can create connection, that's where you're going to find probably the most joy and the most love and feeling that community support you. So you know what, if you love to knit, find a knitting club. Have you always had a passion for dance? Maybe join a dance class, or from ball teams to book clubs, there are places for you to find that connection and community. And I loved, sort of in the event, we had a fireside chat and we did a Q&A, and one of the amazing guests who were there and who bravely raised her hand to ask that question was like, but what if we don't have what you have? They asked Cat Nat, like, how do I find that counterpart? How do I find that connection? And so they listed, it's okay to be the one to go out and ask someone to hang out. And that key takeaway was, we are all managing our plates. We all have very full plates. And the reason why you need that connection and community is the same reason why someone else is going to need that connection and community. And in some ways, you might feel that you're so busy and so overwhelmed that you don't have the time to reach out. But that's how a lot of other people are feeling right now too. And so the more we can, put our hand out and, ask someone for coffee, or head to that mommy group, or actually take that time for ourselves to do something for us, that's where we will be able to create that connection and things that really just snowball from there to help us feel supported and to create that community. That I feel that as women, especially moms and those who are working, those who are doing things that really matter and are meaningful, we need those outlets. We need people to be able to rely on, people to support us, and people to have that connection with. And so I felt it was important to share, that really those 3 key takeaways, that while being hilarious, while having, so many laughs and wanting to just record the whole thing and just have my phone on the entire time, having that day spent with Cat Nat, while it was hilarious, it was so much more than that, because they showed me that we are all in the same boat. They showed me that making it work means that you have to change that picture of how you think it should look and how you think it should work. And really that all moms need help. And there are so many ways that we can be supported, especially through finding that connection and community, like Cat Nat's mission, and like they show through their friendship with one another, but like they are living through creating the community and the platform that they have, the books that they've written, the podcast that they put out on a weekly basis, because they want you to have that just as much as they do. And so just in wrapping up, I mean, some things that we can do now as we look to these takeaways. Maybe you won't be, drinking Caesars with Cat Nat next week. Maybe you will. Hey, I don't know. Maybe you're visiting them. Maybe you are showing up to one of their events because they're on tour now. But perhaps we can journal about it. Maybe there's some prompts that we can use. Maybe we can try to revisit that picture of how we think it can work. Maybe we can come up with some creative ideas for people we can reach out to, or groups that we can join, or, looking to create that community. Or maybe we have to reach out and find resources that are going to help us and support us right now in a time where we might have to reach outwards to others that are just, not our family. Maybe we have to look to professionals. So we laugh, we cry, we have all the emotions with Cat Nat, but these were my takeaways. I hope that you got something from this episode. If you did, I urge you to share it with a friend, someone who maybe has some mom truths to share herself. let me know what you think by writing a review or sending me a DM. In the podcast notes for this episode, you can find my personal email address, or you can find me on Instagram at Andryanna G. That's ANDRYANNA G. Shoot me a DM. I would love to hear your thoughts. For now, this is where I'll leave you. Go hit up an episode of Unfiltered by Cat Nat. And I hope that you can take good care. Bye for now.